Today, I want to talk about perception, and maybe more importantly, about humility, because seeing is not the same as perceiving. We often assume that because our eyes are open, we're taking in the full picture, but history, science, and everyday life suggest otherwise. There is a fascinating, though ethically troubling if you love cats, experiment from the 1960s that helps illustrate this. Researchers David Hubel and Torsten Wiesel studied how vision develops in the brain. What they discovered changed neuroscience forever. They raised kittens in environments where the only dominant visual patterns were horizontal lines during a critical early period of brain development. When the kittens grew up, they had severely impaired perception of vertical orientations, even though their eyes were physically healthy. They could see floors and steps, which are horizontal, but they frequently failed to detect vertical objects, things like table legs or chair posts. They would walk straight into them, not because they were clumsy, but because their brains never learned how to process that information. The experiment showed that perception isn't just about having working eyes. On a physical level, this discovery had huge implications on human health. Take lazy eye or amblyopia, for example. If a child has one eye that provides blurry input, the brain will gradually learn to ignore it. Over time, even if the eye itself is healthy, the brain treats it as if it's blind. That's why early treatment matters so much, because once the brain has learned something to tune out, it's really hard to reverse. But beyond the physical, this idea extends into how we think, believe, and understand the world. The way we grow up, the experiences we have, the ideas we're exposed to early on. All of these shape how we perceive reality later. And just like those kittens, we may have blind spots we're not even aware of. What's striking is that these kittens were probably completely confident in their perception. From their point of view, they were seeing all there was to see. They just didn't know that they were missing table legs. So that raises an uncomfortable question for us. Are there things today that we're failing to perceive, even while we're confident that we see clearly? From this, I think we can take two very important lessons. First, we can learn to have patience with people who don't see or understand things the way that we do. If upbringing and life experience shape perception so deeply, then it makes sense that not everyone will see the same truths in the same way at the same time. Parents, especially, this matters. If there's something that feels so obvious and essential to you, but your child just doesn't seem to grasp it yet, remember, you have 20 or 30 more years of lived experience than they do. It may not be resistance. It may simply be that they haven't had the exposure yet to perceive what you perceive. At the same time, the reverse is also true. Children raised in a new world shaped by different technologies, challenges, and perspectives may see things that we cannot. And that leads us to the second lesson, humility. Humility doesn't mean abandoning truth or pretending all ideas are equal. It means recognizing that our perception is not complete, that confidence is not the same as correctness, and that being open to new information is often the only way to reduce our blind spots. In the Bible, the prophet Isaiah describes a moment where God explains that people will keep hearing and keep seeing, yet not truly understand. The issue isn't lack of information, it is that long-standing patterns of thought and hardened perspectives make it hard to perceive the truth, even when it's presented clearly. Whether you read that spiritually or psychologically, the insight is striking. If we are unwilling to perceive differently, we may remain blind to truths that are plainly visible. That applies to faith, but it also applies to health, relationships, and everyday decision making. I had a personal reminder of this recently. I was planning to make the video about interpreting cholesterol values, something I thought I knew very well. But as I reviewed the research, I realized how much has changed since I was a student, or even when I started practice. New data, new interpretations, new nuances. What I believed was a settled topic turned out to be far more complex. I had to rethink, revise, and admit that I was missing parts of the picture. That moment was humbling and helpful. In the kitten experiments, once the critical period passed, later exposure led to only limited and incomplete recovery, never reaching normal visual perception. So the natural question is it too late for some of us? Fortunately, humans are more flexible than kittens. Our brains remain capable of change, and beliefs, skills, languages, and perspectives can evolve later in life, especially when we're aware of our limitations and open to growth. Awareness itself is often the first step towards better perception. And my hope is that this video encourages both patience and humility. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe. And don't worry, I'll get that cholesterol teaching video out soon, once I finish editing it with a little bit more humility.